What about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know so I can...
This could have been an S tier draft. I believe Sora actually had him as his S tier draft, but they were an A for the whole
Yes,
group.
he did.
So let's go through it, man. Banger after banger after banger here. Jalen Walker was their original pick. Then they trade back up to the first round to get James Pierce Jr. Slider certified.
Yes, sir.
Xavier Watts in the third round. One of my Heisman favorites. Even though he didn't even sniff a Heisman, but it's fine. Billy Bowman Jr. in the fourth round. And they said that they're going to man him up at slot, which we've been talking about, that's probably where he should play. He has he has tackling issues, but if you're picking him in the fourth round to be a slot, I get it. But if you would have picked him in the fifth round to be a safety, I would have got that too. Then they go to Wisconsin and try to beef back up that offensive line and get offensive tackle. The only thing for me that prevented them from getting that S tier draft is they really needed a true defensive tackle.
Yeah, they did.
And they didn't go and grab one. So what I think they're doing is they're thinking that Jalen Walker and James Pierce are going to carry them to victory, bro. I mean,
they very well could. I mean, based off of our evaluations, they got two of the best defensive players in this entire draft class, right?
They were our number one linebacker and our number one edge rusher consensus in ECG.
Yep.
So
look, I know that I knocked the Vikings earlier for only having 5 draft picks and how they used them. But if you're the Falcons, this is how you go about a draft with only 5 picks. Like, yes, you went into the draft with more picks. You had to give up current picks and future picks to make that move back up into the first round to select James Pierce Jr., right?
Yep.
But you go out there and get bare minimum 3 instant contributors, 2 of whom, your first round picks, and Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., are instant starters.
Yep.
And Xavier Watts, more than likely, at least in my opinion, should start alongside Jesse Bates, right? And Billy Bowman has at least rotational capabilities, yet could also, carve out a role for himself, like you said, in the slot. So ultimately, right, you have, in my opinion, 4 guys who are going to be contributors this season. And Jack Nelson, I don't know too much about him, right? But when I said this, I forget what team it was. In general, in principle, I like taking offensive tackles late in the draft because you want to have developmental swing tackles and quality backups who you've invested time and resources and coaching into should someone go down injured, right? Because you cannot afford to put in someone at tackle who is not qualified. So draft someone, coach them up, and prep them. And the Falcons did just that. All of their other players, they're going to be contributors. And their first 3 guys, I think, are league ready. I don't know how Watts fell to the 3rd round. But, man, they got some stars. I believe Watts was one of my top 2. No, he was my number 3 safety. He was in front of 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝗀, and he was just behind Starks and Manwari. And they got him in the 3rd round.
Yeah,
Some good stuff for the Falcons.
I disagree with that, Dolph, because I don't think that the Falcons had a great draft either in the last 3 years. But to me, and I see what you're saying, Zach, yeah, they might have traded a lot of value away, but the thing here that carries them is Xavier Watts, James Pierce, and Jalen Walker are all first-round picks. They just are. Xavier Watts could have been chosen in the first round, and I can tell you nobody in the country would have batted an eye.
Right.
And they're all going to be starters. They're all going to be starters at their positions. They're going to be the number 1 guys at their positions, bro. Yeah, I have to disagree with you there. I mean, they are so good that they're not going to be bust. That Jalen Walker's not going to be a bust. He's not. James Pierce is not going to be a bust. Xavier Watts is not going to be a bust. I'd be willing to bet my left nut right now that none of those dudes will be bust in the NFL. They're all going to be bona fide. Like, I don't know what those are three guys that you watch their film and be like, I don't know what those guys have to do for people not to be believers in them. Like, they tried to bury James Pierce and say that he's got character issues when he had one traffic stop that he got in an altercation with a cop. A verbal altercation, that was it. And people are trying to say, oh, he's not worth it. You go watch that dude's film, he is an absolute demon. And the thing is, he played half the snaps of everybody else in the country. He was getting pulled more than any edge rusher. The first 2 games for Tennessee, I think he played like a total of 20 snaps and was destroying people. What do y'all think would have happened if he would have played as many snaps as any other edge rusher? People were saying that he was the number 1 player in this draft at the beginning of last season. People were saying this around the country, that he's the number 1 player. If he would have played as many snaps as the best edge rusher that got drafted this year, he would have been number 1 overall. It wouldn't have been Abdul Carter. It would have probably been Travis Hunter or Cam Ward coming off the board first. It would have been James Pierce. Yeah, I had to disagree with that statement, brothers. I love y'all to death, man, but this was damn near an S tier draft. It really was.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good one.
I think if you go in and you draft a DT there at the round 4, CJ West was there. You pick CJ West here, everybody in ECG would be like, S. Sorry. Don't care. It's S tier draft. They killed it. That's all they needed was just a CJ West on their team. We would have been like, yep, that's pretty much over. But yeah, no disrespect. All these teams did well. The NFC South was one of the best. They had some of the best drafts here. All of these guys could have gotten A's. Saints are damn near on an A. You know, the Panthers from an A- was almost an A. It's just, you know, you got to be honest about the players that were there. So, hey, hell of a time.